It's massive and it's ugly. I don't want an egg-shaped key.
But it's so smooth. It's like, you ever go to a beach and then you like get a nice rock? It's like a nice smooth rock on the beach. Welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt.
And my name is Paul, and we just spent a week with the Ioniq 9.
This is their all-new, first ever fully electric 3-row SUV, and I'm going to walk you through the 17 things that you should know about it.
And then we're going to get behind the wheel, talk about some of the standouts for the week and how it stacks up to some of its competitors. Let's get into it.
Let's do it. You guys know the drill. Before we get into the main event, we are going to cover the funky little odds and ends. Now, this is a Hyundai Ioniq product, so as you can see, pixels are once again the theme of the design here. I hope you can see through that. And your headlights. We even got them for our taillights, and I bet you wouldn't have noticed these, Doug DeMuro. And of course, they're all over the interior. And these look like normal tires, but it says here, EV sound absorber. There's actually foam inside the tire to reduce some noise and vibration coming into the cabin. And it doesn't stop there. We actually have these little acoustic noise canceling microphones here in the cabin playing reverse sound waves to give you active noise cancellation. So it is very quiet and very refined in the Ioniq 9. And if I want, I can take my car for a walk because I have Hyundai's Smart Park feature. And if I want to send it back, we can go in reverse too. Pretty cool. I actually have no idea how useful this feature is in the real world, but it looks cool on camera. And like a lot of other Ioniq products, your shifter is bop it style, so you can twist it and push it for drive, reverse, neutral, and park. But now for the Ioniq 9, our start button is on the bop it. And your center console moves, slides forward and back pretty far actually, and it doesn't stop there either. There's a little button here, and then you can open this front ways, which is pretty normal, but you can also open it for the rear passengers to have access. It's a little hard to see, but the pixels here on your steering wheel, they do light up, as you can see. And when you go into reverse, things get a little treacherous, which is why they go red. But you have great 360 cameras, which we'll talk about later, so you can keep an eye on things, so it's not so treacherous. And of course, there's a lot to keep track of in your big family EV, so there's an EV screen to help you keep track of it. You can see things like your state of charge, where the nearest charger is, your realistic estimation for your range, and then what you can expect if you turn the fan off. You also have on your cluster here a max and min. Presumably min is like in sport mode, driving super hard, and then max is like climate off, and then dire straits, we need the most range possible. But you can also keep an eye on what's sucking down power over here. We also have a utility mode, so if I turn that on, it's going to kind of not send power to the powertrain, to the motors, and just optimize battery condition and performance to keep the cabin cool. The idea is if you're going to sleep in the back of the car while you're camping or something, you can keep the climate on. If it's like 90 degrees outside and you want to keep it a nice comfortable 70, you can do that without a whole bunch of phantom drain going to the motors and wasting your battery. And we'll talk more about technology later on, but you do have things like a voice memo here. You've got weather controls to keep track of stuff. You've got sports, so you can set your favorite team and keep track of their scores and things like that. If we go into baseball, I saw it had the Brewers on here earlier, see how they did. I think they beat the Marlins. Yes, they did beat the Marlins, so that's kind of cool. Of course, if you have this thing connected to the internet, you can keep track of a whole bunch of stuff. You've also got valet mode and Hyundai Pay if you set up your customized account, which you can link to your fingerprint reader right here. Well, this is more for custom driver profile, but you can totally customize this thing however you want is really the point. And a couple other Hyundai staples, if I swipe down from the top of the screen like I would to check notifications on my phone, I do have quiet mode, which is going to kill the rear speakers if you've got kids sleeping in the back here, so it doesn't wake them up, but you could still listen to stuff, podcast, music, as you're driving down the road. You also have passenger talk, which will amplify your voice over the speakers in the rear of the car, so you don't have to turn your head, take your eyes off the road to yell at your kids in the back. And of course, you have shortcuts for things like utility mode if you are going to take this thing to camp. And in usual fashion, you do have the blind spot cameras, both sides. You love to see it. And you do have physical climate controls down here, and you have this dial, which is generally nice, but when my foot is on the gas or in the brake as I'm driving, my knee has a tendency to kind of hit this dial, and then if I'm moving around, as you can see, I could end up changing the temperature quite a bit and then being confused why the fan is starting to go crazy. Also, in your settings, you have an active sound design, so you can make this thing a little louder or quieter if you want more powertrain or EV hum as you drive around, or you can turn it totally off. And you guys know I love my ambient light, and Hyundai does a pretty good job with their ambient light. You've got a bunch of different colors that are preset, and you can go in here and customize whatever color you want to see. And it looks pretty cool off of this, which we'll get to later when we talk about the cabin. And this front driver's seat does have the lounge mode, so you can set yourself into lounge. If you're charging and you want to just relax, you can do this. And then you press it back and it'll return. But that's not the only cool thing going on with this seat. With this, the whole seat articulates, not just the bottom, which I actually really like, because oftentimes I find myself wanting a little bit more leg support, so I throw this up, but then I'm more pinched like this, so then I have to orient the rear individually. So I do like that it does it all as one unit. Clever. And we'll stay down here to take a look at the pedals, because you do have plus for your go pedal and minus for your brake pedal. Nice little touch. And what's becoming increasingly one of my favorite features, not just in the Ioniq products, but in other vehicles as well, is you can use this vehicle to load style. So there's an adapter that you plug into the car, and then you can power things like a campsite, or if your house loses power, or if you just need to charge something on the go, you can use the battery from your EV, or from your Ioniq 9 specifically. And the last little odd and end we'll talk about is this is built in Georgia. This is built in the new Meta plant in Georgia. Hey guys, real quick, Matt here. Just wanted to say I hope you've been enjoying the video. If you have, would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it does go a long way in helping us get access to cars sooner and get access to manufacturer engineers, so we can get more information on the cars and get you more information so you can make better decisions. So would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe, like, comment, the whole YouTube thing. But with that, let's get back to the video. All right, that was quite a bit, so let's zoom back out, start back up at the top, and talk about what this is and what it competes against. Well, this is Hyundai's first full EV 3-row SUV. It kind of competes against things like Tesla's Model X, Rivian's R1S that we were in recently, Cadillac's Escalade IQ that we were also in recently, but most specifically it competes against the cousin EV9 from Kia, which we had to go in last year and absolutely loved. We've also had to go recently in VW's ID Buzz, which is a little bit of a different thing, but also I guess could compete. And you could also throw the Volvo EX90 in there just to round out the segment, I suppose. But then we'll talk about motors and performance. Now, as base in your S trim, you will get a single motor for rear wheel drive. It's going to make about 215 horsepower. From there you go up to your SE and your SEL trim, which is going to get you 303 horsepower from dual motors for all-wheel drive. And here we have our calligraphy, or even in the limited you get dual motor all-wheel drive, but it's the performance-oriented option. It gets you 422 horsepower, which is significantly more than the 379 horsepower that we had in the EV9. This also gets you 516 pound-feet of torque in your Ioniq 9, which means 0 to 60 is good for about 4.5 seconds, or just about identical to an Escalade V. But what's feeding those motors and giving the performance? We have to talk about the battery and the range. Now, it's a 110 kilowatt hour battery, 107 of that is usable, and it's good for about 303 to 320 miles of range depending on what trim you get, which is again a significant jump from the 279 that you would get in an EV9. For the most range, you're going to want to go for your rear-wheel drive S trim, as you might imagine. That'll get you 335 miles of range. So it's up to 320 for the dual motor and as little as 303 with the big tires and the performance-oriented option. I think we're sitting here at about 311, at least that's quoted. But we also did our Lakeshore Loop fuel economy test, which came back with 3.4 miles per kilowatt hour, which gives it an effective range of, get this, 363 miles. So this thing is actually pretty efficient, and it outperforms, and not by a little bit, the EPA estimate. But then of course EVs don't generally like the highway, so we did our 75 mile an hour highway test. It's about 50 miles, and it came back with 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour, which gives it an effective range of 278 miles on a full charge, which again is actually really impressive to have almost 300 miles of real highway range. That's pretty good. And we'll hit our little cluster of pixels to deploy our charge door so we can talk about charging. Now, this Ioniq 9 is built on the 800 volt architecture. It'll accept up to 350 kilowatts of speed if you can find a charger that'll do that. And what you can see here is the big story. It's got a NACS port, or a Tesla port. So you can charge at the proper generation Tesla Superchargers, or with the adapter you can charge at the EA, or really any other charge port with the CCS combo. So it really opens up the charging infrastructure if you are going to take a road trip. But most of the time, if you own this thing, you're going to end up charging at home, which is what I've done all week. I've got an Emporia at home, but it's a J1772, so I went to LECTRON and got an adapter for the NACS. So it's J1772 to NACS port. It'll accept up to 11 kilowatts on a level 2, so it'll charge overnight in about 10 hours. So between the versatility of where you can charge and how efficient this is and how much range you have, road trips, not so scary anymore. Ioniq 9 behind the wheel. In sport mode. It is quick. It does EV stuff. It is at least as quick as the EV9 GT line that we were in last year that we also thought was pretty quick. We also compared its 0 to 60 to the Escalade V because they are very similar. Now, I don't know why that's the benchmark that we've chosen, but we've mentioned it in 2 videos, so it feels like a habit now. But anyway, yes, it does EV stuff. It's very quiet. You can turn on some drive sounds, you can turn off some drive sounds. I like to have it off just for like the simple fact that it is so quiet in here. And I guess that's my main point that I want to talk about behind the wheel here. Yes, it's very smooth. Yes, you have power everywhere. But more than that is the cabin experience. We've got the active noise cancellation in the cabin here. We've got acoustic glass all the way around. We've got foam in the tires to keep some of that noise and that vibration and the harshness from the outside world from seeping in here and getting to me. And it works really, really well. I was just filming at the park back there, and like 15 yards away from me, this woman's Forester, her Subaru Forester's panic alarm was going off. And like I was on my phone scrolling silently for a second, and I like kind of could hear. And then I opened up my door, and then I realized, oh yeah, that thing's, the panic alarm is going off. So it is genuinely quiet in here, like really quiet. So what you get then is, since it is so quiet and the ride is so smooth, now over big bumps, it's about 6,000 pounds, this thing, so it does thunk over bigger bumps, but smaller to medium-sized bumps, the stuff that you come across most all the time, it is very smooth. So in tandem with the smoothness and the quietness and the power that you have at your disposal at all times, it is easy to find yourself going a bit quick. So make sure you pay attention. But ultimately, the driving experience, it's everything I wanted it to be. It's very good. It's very, very good. And then how could we not talk about styling? Now, our tester here is draped in ionosphere green, which is spectacular. One of the best greens that I've ever seen on a car. But you do get the pixel headlights. These are unique to the calligraphy, at least the lower portion is, and you get full width pixel-esque running lights. You also have a very short hood that you can see from the profile, which makes it look a little interesting and the opposite to the Acura ADX that we were in the other week. We've got an interesting wheel arch detail that I'm not sure that I care for, but it's body colored, so it's pretty incognito on our spec. We do have the 21-inch wheels. You can get these or a more individual multi-spoke that looks a little bit more conventional luxury car. So leave it down in the comments which you think you like better. But you do get a sloping tapered roofline that you can see from the profile, and you get some unique window trimming, in addition to some pop-out door handles for aerodynamics, as you might expect. It's about the same length as the new generation Palisade, but it does have a longer wheelbase to optimize for cabin and cargo space. And it also makes it handle a little bit better. But your rear design is very, very unique, with a basically flat trunk and a full halo of tail lights and brake lights going on. There's more pixels in your lower bumper, and overall, I think it looks pretty wild. What do you think? And what do you like more, this or the EV9? And we will talk cargo area, and we'll start up in the frunk because you have a frunk. It's not huge, but it is big enough to keep things like your tire mobility kit, your fix-a-flat kit, and some of your charging adapters and miscellaneous cables up here, so it's not cluttering your trunk and rattling around back there. It also comes with these nice little bags, so everything fits and works pretty well. You could put a laptop up here or some other smaller items. But of course, around back is your main event. Now, that's not your trunk release, that's not your trunk release. It's this offset guy here. And of course, it is a powered trunk. You get kick gesture and all that sort of thing. You got an additional button for not just close, but close and lock, which you know I love to see. But then the space that you're looking at is actually pretty decent. It's 23 cubic feet of space with the third row up. There's this interesting height control button that's undercover. And when I say undercover, I literally mean undercover. But you also have a 12 volt back here, you've got some LEDs, and then you do have a household style power outlet. So if you didn't want to use the adapter, you could still use this, although it's gonna max out at about 125 volts. We also technically have a little bit of space underneath the trunk floor, but this is an almost luxury car because we can see that we do have buttons to electronically fold our third row. We can fold both of them, the headrests go, and then when they are down, you're looking at about 47 cubic feet of space. That's pretty dang good. And it doesn't stop there. You can actually power fold the second row as well. And then you're looking at 88 cubic feet of space, which is proper good. Really nice optimized trunk area, even for an EV that generally has a smaller trunk. It still is going to have a little bit smaller trunk than in a conventional Palisade, but still pretty impressive cargo area. And if you want to tow in your Ioniq 9, you can do. It's about 5,000 pounds of max capacity for your dual motor and about 3,500 pounds for your single motor rear wheel drive and your base trim. And then moving up the cabin, we'll check out the third row, which we can get to with the push of a button, since obviously this is electronically controlled. We saw that from the back there. It doesn't fold in a child seat friendly fashion, but it does get out of the way relatively quickly. And then I'll step back here and I'll show you the fact that there's just 2 seats back here. So there's not 3 across, but you do have some features that add to the experience. Now I'm 6'1", I'll kind of get back here so I can show you. It's not huge, but it's big enough, I think. This seat actually has quite a bit of room in front of it, so it could go forward even a bit more. But this is really going to be used for mostly just kids. But I do have really decent headroom back here, which is actually pretty nice. I've got vents back here. I've got a USB-C to charge stuff. I've got power reclining for my third row here. And I've got cup holders and a little bit of storage. So overall, it's not a bad third row. Then we will talk about the second row, but we are going to do our typical door test. It does not open quite 90 degrees, but the thing that I noticed with this door is it is enormous. This is the largest rear door I think I've ever seen, and it's got some good features. We do have a huge then shade here, which is really quite nice. Perforations into the door card, padded leather, bows, and then some kind of translucent, I don't know, future-esque looking stuff. We do have cup holders in the door. That's not my favorite design. If you've got stuff like, I don't know, like a McDonald's cup or something, and you close the door pretty hard, which kids tend to do, has a tendency to kind of spill into the cabin. But anyway, I will show you the space. Now we have a captain's chair layout here, which is quite nice. Again, kind of graduating perforations up the seat with our 4 little boxes or pixels. And we do have power controls here for our captain's chairs. And with me at 6'1", again, like I mentioned in the third row, I have a universe of knee room in front of me if I wanted to move up and give the third row passengers more room. I also have a huge amount of headroom, even with our big pano roof. We also have a really, really nice kind of micro suede headliner. We've got vents back here, and down here is the main event. I showed you this earlier, but we do have heated and cooled seats in the back here. We also have a nice little cubby underneath here, which is really pretty nice. We also have a third climate zone, and we've got some chargers, and I can control more or less legroom from the front seat right back here. So overall, a really, really nice place to spend time in the back of the Ioniq 9. And we'll move all the way up to talk about the front seats then. Now we already showed you the lounge seat with a little ottoman that kicks up and the way that this adjusts, nice and clever. But the seats themselves, they're not done here. We talked about the active bolstering too. You've got 3-level heated, you've got 3-level cooled, and you've got the graduated perforations with your little pixels here. Headrest, really comfortable. Seating position, pretty good, but it doesn't stop there either. You've got 2-person memory and you've got ergo motion massage with this little button right here. There's about 3 different settings for your ergo motion massage: pelvic, lumbar, whole body, or off, but you don't get it on the passenger side. That's a kind of Hyundai Kia Genesis staple to get it for the driver, but not the passenger. So this is the seat that you want to be in. And then just touching on the cabin design and experience as a whole, it's actually fairly simple here, surprisingly simple for an Ioniq product. Now you do get H-Text with black on our tester, you can get more colors, but the seat back does have a nice rippling and interesting pattern to it, as we've touched on before. We do have gradiented perforations for our door card, which looks really good at night with our ambient light. And we have a really unique dash accent on the passenger side. A lot of people on the internet seem to not really love this, but I actually do. The way it catches the ambient light at night and adds a little bit of personality here is a nice breakup from the otherwise black interior. But you do have physical climate controls, as we talked about before. You've got a very flat floor, leading to that sense of feeling open and spacious, and we've got loads of storage cubbies all over. We've got them above your glove box here. We've got a 2-tiered storage cubby down here in the front. Of course, your center console, as we saw, moves forward and back and then opens forward and back, and an additional cubby back here that we talked about. So there's plenty of storage, and if that wasn't enough, phones, wallets, they fit right here in your door card next to your armrest. So overall, the cabin experience, it feels nice, it looks nice, and it is nice. And we are going to talk about technology. We talked about some of the odds and ends earlier in the video, but we're going to talk about this from a high level. You do have a full head-up display, works really well in tandem with your HDAS 2.0, your highway driving assist, or your driver assistance suite, really. You got an eyeball watcher here. This will automatically lane change for you when you hit the turn signal on the highway. Really pretty nice. This continues to be one of our top 5 driver assist suites, this Hyundai system here. So I love to see that. We do have a fully digital instrument cluster right here, which gives me just about enough information as I'd want to see. There's not a huge amount of customizability, but it's certainly a good thing to look at, and it gives me some customizability to see what I want to see. And then over here, same thing. 12.3-inch center infotainment screen, wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, software, nice, snappy, feels kind of Genesis light. Throw it into reverse. We've got great 360 cameras. We even have our little augmented reality kind of bird's eye view, and it's always white because they always are on the Hyundais, and it doesn't stop there. We do have a digital rear view mirror here. So that's really, really helpful if you've got a family SUV, you're gonna have things or kids or stuff in the back. It's not distracting, you can still see all the way through. And the last thing I wanna talk about is the wireless charger. It's a nice, sensible design. There's rubberized components here, and it's got a little raised area here, so if you've got an iPhone where the camera bumps out, this can still sit pretty flush. So it's not just gonna warm up your phone, it's gonna actually charge it, and since it's rubberized, it's not gonna fly all over the place. So the tech, as you would expect from a new Hyundai, very, very good. And the last thing that we'll talk about before we get back with Paulo and go for a bit of a drive is the price. Now starting, your S trim starts at $59,000. That's for your rear wheel drive. You're gonna get the most range that way. You go up to SE 62.7, SEL 66.3, Limited 71, and Calligraphy starts at $75,000. Calligraphy Design starts at $76.50, but our tester here is just a hair over $77,000. Now that's a lot of money for something with a Hyundai badge, you might say, but I'm also going to explain to you why it's actually a pretty good value. So let's get with Paulo and do that. 0 to 60 mimics an Escalade V, which is important consumer information.
Yeah, I mean, that is pretty impressive, and luckily I slowed down a little bit because there is a policeman right in front of us.
It's the fuzz. Tell me about the things that stuck out to you this week.
So starting with the positives, I am infatuated with this color.
Yes, how could you not be? Ionosphere green?
I think it's one of the coolest colors out. I would want my future car to be this color.
Greens really are hitting lately. Last year we were in the Alfa Stelvio QV with that green.
Ooh! Yep.
It was like Montreal green. Ooh!
Yeah,
okay,
I like
go
that
on.
one too. I think that it is extremely spacious in here, and
very nice.
I love the room. Even in the third row, you were just giving me flack because I moved the second row up to where it'd be optimal. I actually moved it all the way up, as close as you could go to the front row, and my knees still didn't touch. And then I hopped in the third row, and ample red headroom. My knees were touching, but I honestly could have adjusted my posture a little bit to where they weren't, and like that's pretty impressive. There's not a lot of SUVs, 3-row SUVs that can say that or make that claim.
Yeah, I think
have that much room.
They have optimized the space pretty well. If you do need more room and need a more dedicated third row, then you're probably looking at the ID Buzz, but that has like 100 miles less range than this. But it does look sick.
It does look really cool.
So I don't know.
That is a good point to bring up.
Yeah.
I do like some of the, I'd say, luxury features that they included, and it's just kind of timely with the Genesis that we just had. But we have the active noise canceling in the headliner, and you also have foam in the tires to dampen the noise. Acoustic glass as well. So I think they do a nice job with the noise isolation in here.
Totally. When I was at the park earlier today, there was a woman in a Subaru Forester like 20 yards away from me, and her panic alarm started going off. I was like scrolling through my phone or something, and I could like kind of hear a faint dinging or something, like something that was super far off in the distance, and I opened my door, and there was a panic alarm going off 20 yards away, not even 20 yards away.
A lot closer than it appeared.
And I was like, oh, this does business. This does work.
Yeah.
So yeah, really, really refined cabin as you go down the road.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then I like that you can leverage Tesla Supercharger. I mean, that's really cool.
I love when you say leverage. It sounds so corporate. But that is nice though. And you got adapters so you can charge basically anywhere.
Yeah.
Corporate reviews brought to you by
Brought to you by
Salesforce.
We got to find a way to integrate
We need that Salesforce money. I know they got money to throw at the channel.
It's all about finding that balance.
You gotta find synergies to leverage.
Synergy and balance. Yeah, what else did I really like? I mean, the features that you get for the price point, I think it's a really good value proposition. I know it's $77K, and to say that's, a fair price for a vehicle in this day and age, I know sounds kind of ridiculous, but it truly is when you look at some of the competitors and what they offer and their price points.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing that we were in that would be a competitor or could be construed as a competitor to this was the Escalade IQ, not even the IQ L. And that was really like, with the executive rear seat, that was basically a 4-seat vehicle. Mm-hmm. That was $168,000 as tested. So that's almost $100,000 more than we're testing here. It's $90,000 more than we're testing here.
Yeah,
so
that's insane.
Yeah, it's a big dollar sign to see next to a Hyundai logo. But when you really break it down, if you want a 3-row SUV, like it's this, or the EV9, but the EV9 has less power and less range, and fairly significantly less range. And then there's the ID Buzz, which is this much money, but has, as I mentioned, 100 miles less range. Yeah. But it do look good, though.
Yeah, I mean, I guess going to like some of the negatives that I had this week, I personally don't like the styling of this vehicle, and a lot of people that I asked also didn't like the styling of this vehicle. Yeah, and then the only other like small minor inconvenience was the knee. I don't know if you mentioned it in the video.
I certainly did.
But
it's a thing.
Our knee hitting the temperature gauge, which will change the temperature, and then if it's off and you move the knob, it'll also turn on and adjust it. So like that is quite annoying.
I also found my knee rubbing on the bottom of the steering column here every now and then. Set the seat all the way down. So I don't know, there's just tiny little things that are like creature comfort stuff that you might run into depending on how long your legs are. But really that was the only thing that really kind of bothered me.
I also don't love the egg key fobs. Like they're quite annoying.
No?
Luckily
they're quite annoying? What's annoying?
It's massive and it's ugly. I don't want an egg-shaped key.
Look, both of those things you just said are true, but like it doesn't offend me.
It doesn't offend you? Show them. It's hideous.
You can see it.
Look how thick that is, and it's just.
But it's so smooth. It's like you ever go to a beach and then you like get a nice rock. It's like a nice smooth rock on the beach.
It's like the size of an ostrich egg. Like it does not need to be that
an ostrich egg. Have you seen an ostrich egg
in
your life?
I will say, yeah, I have.
The ostrich egg is like your head size. This is not.
I will say though that you can add.
You're just talking rubbish.
You can add the key to
use your phone.
Your phone, yeah, which is nice. So
if you don't want this ostrich egg key, apparently, which is completely inoffensive. But you get smart park. I bet you can't smart park with your phone. I actually shouldn't say that because I have no idea.
That is, you might be able to.
You might be able to.
Yeah, but I think overall, like, I love what Hyundai, Kia, Genesis do. They bring the value for a relatively decent price point. For me, I like the series of the Ioniqs, like the Ioniq 5. Love the styling. They just, to me, personally missed the boat on this one. I would get the EV9.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think styling, subjective sort of thing. I prefer the look of the EV9, but I really have to give it to Hyundai and even the Kias and the Gen. But like, this is a Hyundai video, so we're talking about Hyundai. The Ioniq line of vehicles is so good. What you get for the money is just not matched anywhere else. Yeah. Like, it's just not. And now that you can charge at Tesla chargers and the real world range is like, at least from my experience in our Lakeshore Loop, over 350 miles, and you can do 75-mile-an-hour highway and get like over 250, close to 300 miles.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Bangs. This bangs. So with that, I think thank you to Hyundai for letting us have a go. Thank you to you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.